Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Things That Matter with me, Marty McNabb. And as you know, who, if you've been listening for a long time, or maybe even if you're new to this channel, I absolutely love the stories that get attached to the things that we surround ourselves with, the things that are on our windowsills, are in our pockets, that we adorn our bodies with, that we surround ourselves with. And being someone who's always considered myself a visual storyteller, I believe that things tell stories just as much as words do. So I I've been doing this work of inviting people to tell the stories of the things that matter, the things they keep, for over a decade now. But my guest today is actually someone that probably starts, you were there for the birth of this idea to an extent. I had started it in New York City and Brooklyn over a decade ago in Branded Saloon in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn. And then I believe it was the next conference in the DC area where I was invited to share this idea as a unique way to market yourself. And we ended up doing it as a group event through the old Association of Personal Historians, and that's how I met Marjorie, is through APH. And we had yearly conferences that were just such a pleasure because we were able to hang out with people who are passionate about how important stories are, and that stories are a way, or heal the world, heal ourselves and heal one another and heal the world as a whole. And so it was just such a wonderful experience to do that. We did a project, a show and tell. That's when it was originally called Show and Tell. We did a project, and Marjorie actually took it, which I've never done before, took it to a senior living community and had some people who were in the memory care unit join. And I might ask you a little bit about that at the end to share about that experience, because that was just, it was wonderful. And needless to say, I'm hoping to continue with that in the future. But without further ado, I want to turn this over to Marjorie for the quote unquote show and tell section of this little interview, this little podcast or YouTube interview. So I am going to let you take the stage. So take it away, Marjorie.
All right. Well, I have some pictures. Would you like the pictures, or would you like the story first, or how do you want to do this?
So I think it would be, oops, sorry about that. So I think that either way is fine. However,
why don't I tell a little bit of the story, and then I can share the rest of the story with the pictures.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
This is all right. So this special thing, it's a table, but it's not just a table. It's a table with a story. It's a story I grew up with. I did not grow up with the table at my house. It was at my grandparents' house. When my grandparents died, it went to my dad's sister. So I saw it, but I didn't have it. But I grew up with the story. I don't think my cousins did.
Oh.
So the story meant a lot to me, whether I actually had the table in our house or not. The story that I grew up with was that my grandfather had a workshop and he loved to work with wood. And every summer from South Florida, where they lived, they would drive all the way up into New England and then up into Canada to look for antiques that he could then refurbish. And this was, the story is that he stopped at a farm. I don't know why he stopped there, but he stopped at a farm. He spotted what he could tell was some wonderful, wonderful, a cherry wood table. But this cherry wood table had seen some rough days. It had been used presently when he found it as a wall of a chicken coop. And as you might guess, with a chicken coop, it was not in good shape. And the chickens had no respect for this table. So my grandfather saw it and said, "Can I buy this table from you?" And the farmer said, "Nope, I need it for a chicken coop." And my creative grandfather said, "If I build you a chicken coop, then will you let me buy this table?" And that's what happened.
Oh
My
my God.
grandfather, I don't know how, I don't know the circumstances. He built another chicken coop for the farmer. And so then he brought all of this table up. My aunt tells me that there were about 8 or 12 legs. I don't know where all these legs came from. And so they made actually more tables out of it. But this beautiful cherry wood table, and I'm going to show you, let's see if I can get to share the screen. And I'm going to show you, let's see, there. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's the table. That's my sweet cousin M on the right, namesake of my other great aunt that you, Marty, know about, and
Yes.
my grandson Liam, and they're just using the table as a table. And I will tell you about where the table is now, but this is, so this is the table. Let's see.
Wow.
This is my son and daughter-in-law at their farm with the table.
I don't see
And
the next one.
oh, let's see. Sorry, I
That's
didn't do
okay.
that right. I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to, here we go. There, can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's my son and daughter-in-law at the table. You start to be able to see the grain, the wood grain. It's just beautiful. It's a very
Wow.
large table, but
Yeah,
anyway, my
with
grandfather
all
brought,
those legs.
oh yes, I know. I don't have a picture of the other table that they made from the other legs, but so my grandfather brought it home. It had an honored place in their home. When my grandparents died, their daughter, my aunt, took it to her house in Pensacola.
Oh,
Just a few, and that's where it lived for many, many years. Very recently, she had to move out of her home and the table needed a place. And my son, who's in this picture, said, "We'd love that," because my son grew up hearing the story from me.
oh,
And so it already went to a new generation.
oh,
So when the house needed to get cleaned out, he drove down to Pensacola from his farm in Tennessee.
wow.
And they brought the table back, set it up in their farmhouse. And I detail the story in my, excuse me. And let's see, I'm going to stop sharing here because I'm not real swift on this. And I will show you, that's the table in its glory.
Oh,
And the story is detailed in my recent book, My Liturgy of Easy Walks. So
oh,
that's where whenever we go and visit to see my grandsons in Tennessee, that's the table we share every meal with. And I've made sure, my son has made sure that his children understand the story of their table that is part of their everyday life.
yeah. Wow. That is beautiful.
So that's
Oh,
the story of my table.
that is what I find. Let me see if I can get there. So, what I find so fascinating is also like my curiosity is piqued because I'm like, so how did that table become part of a chicken coop to begin with?
It does make you wonder.
Right.
We don't, yeah, yeah.
As one story leads to another story leads to like, right? It's like
Oh,
this
exactly.
curiosity that how'd that happen?
It does. All I can figure was that it wasn't cared for, that it either uh, somebody sold it, or that it was abused in some way and was no longer the beautiful table that it had been, and it was viewed as just another piece of functional waste wood. I picture it with the table with the legs sticking into the chicken coop and the chickens hopping around on the legs for entertainment or some
Right,
such. It can't have been in nice shape at all. And I honestly don't understand how my grandfather recognized the quality.
right,
It's like the unpolished diamond.
right.
Yeah, but he did.
Wow,
He saw the value when nobody else did. And
wow,
that to me is amongst the greatest gifts of this story, was that even in the midst of a mucky, yucky chicken yard, he saw the value and did whatever it took.
right.
In the
Yeah.
there's
Oh my
many
God.
Bible stories about, the pearl of great price, or selling everything you have, doing whatever you have to claim it, to go and buy a field and dig up the treasure and take it,
Right.
seeing way beyond what's there that nobody else sees.
Yeah.
And I think I wish I knew more, and
Right.
the rest of it is left to my imagination. And
Which is there.
this is a grandfather I never met. He
Ah,
died before I was born. I always felt terribly cheated that I never got to know him.
yeah.
So, but I have his story.
His parts of his story, and you keep on. And that seems
Mhm.
to me like a beautiful segue into you sharing a bit more about the work that you do, because it's interesting. In our pre-conversation before this,
Mhm.
you talked about the challenge of seeing things, and yet
Mhm.
here we are talking about seeing something. And I think your work is something where you see something that may just needs love and care and attention to make it a beautiful heirloom in the work that you do as a, and I'm going to let you take it from there.
Oh, I've spent a number of years interviewing people to help them tell their story, people that didn't feel confident to write. And so we recorded conversations, and that was my job, to take the recorded conversation and transform it into readable narrative. And I've done that for a number of people. At this point, my work has moved into helping people who want to write their own stories but don't feel confident in how to tell the story, or they've written it but they know something's missing. And so I've become more of a book coach, working with people who want to do the writing but know they need support,
Uh,
and drawing out, looking at what they've written and saying, excuse me, saying, but what about this? Or, you're telling us you were engaged to this person, but suddenly you're engaged to someone else. What happened?
Happen.
Something happened, but you've kind of skipped the essentials there. You don't want to leave your reader back with the other story saying, what in the world just happened? So you need to, even if you don't want to go into a lot of details, you got to answer those logical, reasonable questions
Yeah.
that your readers are going to. So putting your mind into the reader's head.
Yeah.
And that's what I work to help people to make their story clearer. It's still their writing, and they actually are pretty competent, but not confident.
Mm,
And so that's what I see as my work of seeing the nuggets that need to be shined and
mm,
made more clear, and so the reader will grasp the value of
yeah.
those stories.
Wow. And needless to say, that's very similar to what your grandfather did,
I'd like to think that.
right? It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
You know, sand and polish and
Mhm.
polyurethane things that was a, you know, that was rough, you know, like,
Metaphorically,
right?
yes.
It was rough and
Mhm.
you made, you know, make beauty from that.
It's really fun for me.
Yeah.
It's less physical typing work with transcriptions and other such, just to be able to read and say, ooh, what's missing. That's for me really satisfying.
I'm so
And oh yeah, but also just to have someone who really wants their work to be better and wants the story to get the other stuff out of the way so
yeah.
people really can hear the story and that they understand the value of that, as opposed to it's what I've written, I'm just who I am, take it or leave it. If you want other people to read what you've written, you need to put the work in.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, some people like your mother might read it just because she loves you. But if you want other people to not only read it, but recommend it to other people, you got to put the work in.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so great. That's so wonderful. So that leads me to um how people can reach you and find you and learn more about your work. And of course, you need to mention your, you know, I wouldn't call it a side hustle. It's more like a main thing. And, you know, because it's like we haven't even talked about these other than your little mention of the easy walks.
Mhm.
But that is an amazing, you know, it's a gift that you're giving to that you create and give to the world. So please
Thank
take
you.
this opportunity to talk about that and to also share how people can reach you.
Sure. I have a website, marjorieturner.com. It's spelled right there, Marjorie, Turner, all together, marjorieturner.com. And lots of information on my website. Lots of information about the multiple books that I've worked on. The doors that open, you know, I think for you with your show and tell, I don't think you imagined when you did that first one that it would take on a life of its own.
Nope.
Uh, and that's a humbling thing, but also very exciting to
Yeah.
see how doors open that weren't, you know, we weren't forcing them. We weren't saying, this is what I've got to do with my life. It was seeing an opportunity and the doors kept opening. For me, that's my Easy Walks books.
Yeah.
They're very local. They're helping people with mobility and visual and other challenges to get safely outdoors, providing information that those of us like me I have mobility challenges. It gives people like me the information to make our own decisions about where we can safely enjoy the outdoors and fill our hearts with what that gives.
Yeah.
So I'm now just finished my 4th in the Trail Guide series. So now we're up to 53 towns in Massachusetts, couple in Rhode Island, and over 180 easy walks in those 4 books.
Wow.
I'm now working with someone who's in Milwaukee and wanted to do an easy walks in Milwaukee. So I'm branching out into collaborating.
Oh,
So she's doing easy walks and paddles in Milwaukee with her sister.
oh,
And they'd like to get it done before Christmas. So
really?
so that's another door opening. And the book I just published is yet another collaboration. The couple who did all the field work for me, the husband is legally blind, and his wife drives them to all these trails. She walks ahead of him, but warns him of there's a rock here, there's a branch coming up, there's someone coming up, step over to the side. And they walk miles a day
Ah,
together. They started it in the pandemic and
oh,
found they enjoyed it so much, they've just kept going. And so when
wow.
I saw what they were doing, I have a Facebook group
Yeah.
called Easy Walks, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Beyond.
Ah,
And when I saw where they lived, where they were walking, I approached them and said, would you be willing or interested in collaborating with me? Because
ah,
it's too far for me to drive. I don't drive great distances because of health issues.
yeah.
And they live right in the next contiguous towns that I would want to cover, and they
Ah,
did it.
yeah.
Another 17 towns, 50 plus trails,
Oh my
took
God.
pictures. My husband said, you got to give people a template if they're going to be collaborating, because you've got all this in your head. That's not fair to
Right.
ask somebody else. And so I created a written template, and they just filled out the information for every single trail they
Wow.
visited, took pictures, emailed all the information to me. So I
Yeah.
curated it
Right.
into the same format as my other books. So
Ah,
it has the same structure,
yeah.
but they were my feet on the ground.
Wow. That is
And
so exciting.
and especially
Collaborations.
a collaboration, but also bringing in visual impairment
Yeah.
and recognizing that people who are visually impaired, there are tools and ways and strategies that
Yeah.
you can use to facilitate getting someone who has diminished vision to
Yeah.
get outside safely and
Wow.
enjoy the outdoors.
Ah, wow. What a gift as well. So,
Mm,
and I imagine they could find this on your website or
yes, it's
yes,
on my
as well.
website. It's
So,
this latest one is Easy Walk South of Boston.
ah,
And yes, it's on Amazon. I'm the author, but they're my collaborators, so we're all on the cover.
how fabulous. So
Mhm.
exciting. All of this will be on in the show notes
Oh,
as
thank you.
well. So, and where you can find Marjorie. And it's always just been such a delight to learn what you're doing and to have conversations through the ages. I know that I was in Tennessee at one point and you said, oh, my son doesn't live very far from there. And there was a moment that was like, could I stop by and say hi? And it
That
didn't,
would have
it
been wonderful.
didn't, it didn't turn out, but not yet. But that was great. I know that you love visiting them.
But I enjoyed, we just before we talked, you were talking about new places that you're branching out. Do you talk about that in your website or in your podcast about new places that you're looking
That I'm looking
to
to
market
extend my work
to?
to
Yes.
extend my work. So this is, as I mentioned, and so Marjorie is talking about a new idea that popped into my brain. Those darn ideas. Um, but and the doors that open that you don't even know are going to, like you had mentioned as well. So I just ended up realizing I love what I've been doing with show and tales. These are basically one-offs, once a month. I'm going to be doing one. I'm going back to New York in November. So I'm doing pop-up in-person show and tales, and I love that I've done this for a decade, and I love every one of them, in person and virtual. Prefer in person, of course, but
Mhm.
the virtual is great as well. But what I realized is that because of their being one-offs, they don't necessarily do the work, the real work of building deeper connections and community and legacy I've that I've come into and that I've connected with and I feel more and more passionate about. They do. I mean, the testimonials have been amazing, and during COVID as well, but what I realized is that I want these to be like longer term and and
Mhm.
and 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 being involving more people and having more permanence. So what Marjorie's talking about is my Things That Matter exhibitions. So working with museums, historical societies, and libraries, because what are they but great big show and tells?
Mhm.
And having like interactive, intergenerational, multicultural um, uh, uh, exhibitions where we get people to donate an object or a photo. Really, it's going to be a photo of an object, and then hang it and invite the community to try to figure out, based on some clues and things like that, little hints and stuff, what object did what person donate, so that they can be curious about their neighbors and curious about one another, and think, oh, my grandmother had that same, that same bottle on her, on her shelf, and my, oh, so and so had that a T-square that they never let go of, and it's been passed down, like, so that you can start connecting and building these deeper things. And of course, that can be with programming, having, weekly programming up to the exhibit or standalone. And then, of course, I want to bring these to senior living communities, which brings us to you talking about your experience bringing this to the senior living community, because I still think about what you said about your friend talking about her mom and the experience for her mom who was in memory care. So bringing full circle back to you, if you would finish us up in some ways in the interview with that experience.
Yeah, specifically, that was what you're referring to was a woman. She wasn't exactly in memory care. She was living with her daughter, but she was in middle stage dementia. And I went and interviewed her back for Legacy Stories, which I think you might remember. And they were just like 3-minute audio recordings. And she was still able to read, but she wasn't able to shift topics. And to get her to talk about one picture was really challenging. So I got her started. She couldn't go beyond that, but I knew that there were 2 or 3 things. So I wrote little like 1-word notes, so it could just be her recording. And when she talked about the one thing that she saw, then I would hold the note up and say, and point to the other thing. And she shifted to that with those cues. And we were able to get 3-minute recordings of about 5 different pictures.
Oh, wow.
So that's what that had. But then I hosted a show and tell with your support. You're walking me through, what is this, Marty? I can't really visualize it. And you kept being patient and explaining it to me. And so I hosted an event at the library. This same friend brought her mother to the library, and she had, I think it was some dolls.
A doll, a dollhouse.
Yes, it was, and so she moved from one doll to the next. Again, she could only focus on one thing, but her daughter helped her. Maybe it was even me. I can't remember that. I just sort of was the master of ceremonies, or mistress, as it were, and just helped her because I knew what her challenges were.
Right.
And the audience had no idea that she was in middle dementia. It wasn't apparent because she was able to talk. She was able to focus on one thing. And the dance that we had of helping her do what she was able, when she was able, how she was able, produce this wonderful, wonderful experience. Her daughter was crying at the edge of just seeing what her mother was able to do with the memories and sharing that. So when the mother died, the first thing her daughter did was call and say, I can't find those recordings, and I still have them.
Oh, thank
And
goodness.
so they were able to play those
Yeah.
at her
Oh,
memorial service.
oh, that was amazing. Yes, she came. I watched it recently, and I'll put that in the show notes too,
Mm.
because you made a really lovely video of it. And so, and she was so animated and so excited
Mhm.
about it. And I think the statement that you made to me was, you said your friend thanked you for giving her mother back, at
Yes.
least for just that period of time.
Yes.
And so
Yep.
this is why I am passionate about bringing everything takes time.
Mhm.
But this is why I'm passionate about bringing these events to memory care and senior living communities, is to, because these memories of old things from the past
Mhm.
spark such, the memories from the past are there, that are still there.
Mhm.
They're not lost as much as the more recent memories are. So I
I
think,
did go to a couple other senior centers,
yeah,
and those, it really is variable what the organizers understand.
right,
And I'm guessing you've seen this too,
yeah,
that another one, I got there and nobody had brought anything.
ah,
And to keep it going, I had to use the same creativity that you do. And I
right,
started looking around. Well, they had rings.
yep,
And so I just started, or a bracelet.
right,
And I said, there must be a story there. That
right,
looks like an engagement ring. Can you tell me how you got that ring?
right,
And
yeah,
there was the story.
yep,
So I
exactly.
don't remember much, but it was hard because there really wasn't the
A lot of prep,
preparation,
right,
but there was still, we all have things
and they
that we
all have
carry.
stories.
They do. They do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but definitely you need to have buy-in from the people that are understanding, and buy-in from the people that are there on
Yeah.
the ground. And that's why for me, it's like partnering, and needless to say, being paid for it, so that they take it seriously,
Right.
because they're not going to want to pay for something that they don't get a good return on their investment, which is
Right.
important for them.
Mhm.
But it's equally important for us as well. So, for us to support ourselves. So, but I really appreciate your own personal experience with that. That helped me a lot, and it just, of course, lifted, it just made me feel
You're
great
welcome.
as well.
You're
So
very welcome.
that was a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining me today for this episode of Things That Matter with Marty McNabb. And for anyone who's listening, if you would like to bring a program like this, story sharing gathering about the things that matter, objects that have stories, and can build deeper connections, community, and legacy, please reach out to me at info@showandtales.com, and I will have that also in the show notes. And I have kind of put my virtual show and tales on a little bit of pause lately as I shift gears towards this exhibition. But I do still host them from on occasion. And so check out my website to find out the next event. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your story, Marjorie. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks.